And of course, baseball is facing sort of a different, though similar, circumstance. With basketball and hockey, their seasons came to screeching halts. With baseball, of course, as we know, it never even got a chance to begin, and they're looking at the problem from the beginning rather than from the end. So those are Buster Olney and Marx Teixeira that you see with us here. And Buster, I want to start with you. Obviously, baseball has precedent in trying to put together legitimate, shortened seasons. Can you take the fans who don't maybe know a little bit of the history through the way they've done that before?
Yeah, and I think it's instructive for how long it would take baseball to get ramped up. In 1995, there had been a player strike, and then on April 2nd, that was settled. They played the first game on April 25th. There was about 3 weeks of spring training, and that's probably what would be needed at a minimum whenever baseball gets started up again this year. Now, players are in much better shape than they used to be. I had some evaluators this spring tell me that right out of the gate, first live batting practice, pitchers are throwing 98, 99 miles per hour. But there would be a time to ramp up the starting pitchers in particular. And I suspect baseball would open up the rosters to add a number of pitchers to deal with the innings at the outset of whenever baseball started.
Tex, I would turn to you then as a player, a former player yourself. Mark Shapiro said he felt they'd need a month. Buster was telling us they've done it before in 3 weeks. From the time that we are given whatever constitutes an all clear for players to come back and start playing, how long do you think it would take players to be ready to start playing major league games?
I think 3 weeks is realistic. If you look at, guys are getting in great shape in the offseason. They're basically going back to their offseason program, but you do need a few weeks to get into baseball shape. So I think a week of workouts to get all the rust off, and then 2 weeks of games should be enough to get these guys ready. And I think most baseball players will tell you, I don't want to be in spring training for another month or 6 weeks. They'd like to get to the season and start playing real games.
Okay, so then let's spin it forward there if we can. I'm not going to start speculating as to when this may happen. But one of the things that I saw suggested somewhere, Tex, is the notion that in order to, in whatever time frame they have available to them, play as many games as possible, that perhaps they would play a disproportionately large number of doubleheaders. We have almost no doubleheaders anymore. That used to be something that was a regular part of the baseball schedule. How would you feel as a former player about the idea of playing quite regular doubleheaders to get in as many games as possible?
I'm completely against it, Greeny. And here's the thing. You don't want to make a bad situation worse. This is a very tough situation for everybody around the country.
Oh, that is such a shame because he has such an interesting answer to that. Buster, I will ask it to you, and we will try and get Tex back as quickly as we can. We're obviously dealing with technology here that it's not usually the way we do our live TV. But, Buster, what do you think about the idea of doubleheaders?
Yeah, I don't think that would be part of the regular solution because, first off, you'd have players who wouldn't necessarily start whatever season they put together in ideal conditions. So the idea of playing 2 games in a day, I don't think would be something that they would entertain. And they would entertain a lot of things. You heard the NBA commissioner basically said, look, we'll consider a lot of different things. I think that's exactly what baseball's mindset is going to be. I've talked with officials in the game who speculated on, maybe baseball lasts until mid-December. You play regular season games into mid-November, then have a month worth of postseason. And you use warm weather sites, you use neutral sites, you use those places where they have a roof available. If you were to have a team like the Cleveland Indians unable to play their home games because of cold, I think they're going to be open to a lot of things, including the idea of a tournament, maybe an NCAA type bracket once they get going.
Okay, hold that thought. I want to put a pin in that because I want to come back to it. But Tex, I'm told I have you back. Would you just finish your thought on doubleheaders and why you'd be against that?
Yeah, I'm completely against doubleheaders, Green. Like I was saying, you don't want to make a bad situation worse. This is a very tough situation for these players and for everyone around the country. But, these guys are not used to playing multiple games every single day. They already played too many games in a compressed schedule. Don't make this situation worse. You're going to have a lot of injuries. You're going to have a lot of pitchers going down, overextended bullpens. I'm completely against doubleheaders. And I heard Buster talking about getting the season into back.
Oh, that is such a shame that we're losing him there again. Tex, hang on for me a minute. We'll try and get something back together again. Again, we keep losing you. Buster, I will come back to you then. What was that you were saying about the possibility of an NCAA-like tournament?
Yeah, I think that baseball would be open to a number of ideas, depending on how much time frame they had. And let's face it, it would be all about trying to make the best of a bad situation. And so they would I think if it means a 60-game season, if it means a 90-game season, a 100-game season, everybody would understand within the sport that the integrity of 162 games, that's out the window for this year. And in 1995, they played 144 games. In 1981, because of a strike, they played 106 to 110 games. They shortened the season by a week in 1972. I think baseball is going to be flexible in how it deals with this.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to you, is what constitutes integrity? We heard Gary Bettman say that here on Get Up With Me last Thursday, that whatever they do, it has to sort of live up to the integrity of the last 100 years of the Stanley Cup. That doesn't necessarily feel like it is a realistic possibility for baseball. There's no way they're playing what would traditionally constitute a full season. Tex, if they were to play 60 games and then create some sort of play-in tournament or whatever else it is, do you think most of the players would be for that? Do you think that would seem like something that would be satisfying for players and to whatever extent you can answer this, for fans as well?
Well, I think it'd be fun. I don't think players are going to be for that. I mean, listen, if you start the season in June, you could play 100 games and you could have a normal season, right? If you start the season in July or August, you're going to have to get very creative. And I think players right now are trying to be optimistic, saying let's try to get back by June 1st maybe and have a 100-game season and then a regular off or postseason, because I think you start getting in a lot of trouble when you start talking about playing games in November and December. The weather just won't allow that in Major League Baseball.
Tex, really quickly, how about playing with no fans in the stands? It's something that we've talked about with regard to the NBA and basketball. How about in baseball? How would you feel about games being played in empty stadiums?
I would have no problem with empty stadiums, honestly. I mean, I think people are going to be so excited about watching baseball on television. If they're told because of health reasons that they can't go to the stadium for a few months to start the season, they're going to be okay with that.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.